I was hurt by her comments because until then, no one had ever made me feel less about myself because of my disability. I tried to make a last attempt at introducing myself, but she pushed my wheelchair out of the wedding premises.
Wait, what's that? Is that my ring? Give that to me. Lord, I can't believe Dave entrusted such great responsibility into your hands. A ring bearer riding on a wheelchair on my wedding and with a scarred face.
I'm Jessie Williams, and today, I'm going to be a big part of a very special occasion. It's Dave's, my best friend's wedding, but before I tell you about that, here's a little backstory. Dave and I started out as childhood friends when I woke up on one summer morning to find a new family moving into our neighborhood. As an extroverted kid, I decided to go over to meet the new neighbors and socialize when I found myself in what seemed to be a dog kennel, more than it was a residential house. 3 big Great Danes, all loose off their chains, growled menacingly and turned to chase me. I wasn't very fast and at once knew that I didn't stand a chance against them, so rather than try to make a run for it, I simply covered my face with my palms and screamed as loud as I could. I was surprised when a few moments later, I was still on both feet. I opened my eyes to find him, Dave, down on one knee and surrounded by the 3 dogs.
I'm sorry, we just moved in. My parents aren't expecting any visitors, hence the reason for them roaming free. By the way, I'm Dave.
Hey, I'm Jessie. And so it was that Dave and I met. I didn't feel comfortable having the dogs around us, and he seemed to understand it because he soon made them leave us. He apologized more times than I could count for the incident, and as a sort of peace offering, asked me to join him inside and play video games. I reminded him that I was a stranger and didn't think I'd earned the right to gain access to their house just yet. He smiled and asked me to wait while he rushed inside. About a minute later, he reappeared at the doorway with a beautiful, chubby woman who I rightly assumed to be his mother. It turned out he had told her that he'd made a new friend already and asked to spend the day with me. His mother surprisingly consented to that, and I wondered if she was always that way or maybe just felt she could trust her son with me. After all, I was a kid like him, and surely couldn't overpower him. We soon became best of friends, our families too. One day, in our final year in high school, I'd stopped by to see Dave when I noticed a fire in their building. I was terrified and raised an alarm. Someone dialed the fire department, but I knew it'd take a while before they arrived. Without giving any second thoughts to what I was doing, I instinctively rushed into the building and found Dave, fast asleep. I tapped him, and he awoke to a start. He was scared by the inferno and asked why I risked my life to get to him. What are friends for? I'm here because I care.
Really? You could have gotten yourself killed, Jessie. Thank you. I think I hear sirens. I guess the fire department is here already.
The firefighters rescued us, and I instantly became a local celebrity, though, with a price. You see, on our way out, I had fallen from 1 floor down and injured my back. I suffered a burn on one part of my face, too. It wasn't anything serious, though, but it left what I believed was going to be a permanent scar. Dave and I were best friends, and just that. We shared many secrets and knew a lot more about each other than anyone else, but rather than let that make us vulnerable to each other, in any case of a fallout between us. It served as the bond that strengthened our friendship. I knew my life could easily be destroyed by just one statement from him, and vice versa, but we never made that an option. Of course, we had our fair share of quarrels and disagreements, but almost like siblings, we always resolved our issues quicker than any third party could notice. People found it hard to believe that we were not in a relationship, and in fact, had never been in one with each other. We were accused by many of being secret lovers until when word of Dave getting married to some other girl got out. Anyways, enough of the backstory. I'm sorry that almost took forever. Back to the wedding. As his best friend, he thought it natural for me to be the head of his wife's bridal train, but Kira, his wife-to-be, had other plans. She told him it was on her to call the shots about that. She chose her own best friend instead.
I'm very sorry, Jessie. I swear I really wanted you to be the one person behind my bride, but she says she feels a bit uncomfortable having a total stranger behind her on her special day.
Oh, come on, that is nothing. It doesn't matter whether I'm at the head of the bridal train or not. In fact, I don't even care if I'm only seated among the audience that day. All I care about is seeing you both smile in love at each other. That is all that matters to me.
Thank you, dear friend.
I wasn't bluffing. I truly didn't care about my role in the wedding as long as it was a success. About Kira, the thing is, Their relationship started off as a long-distance flirting on social media, and they'd in fact never met each other one-on-one until the eve of the wedding. I found that really strange, but I was sensible enough to not confront him about it. It was their love to experience and life to live so. Who was I to question them or their decisions? I was invited to the mini party on the wedding eve, but something came up at work and I ultimately missed my chance to meet Kira before the wedding day at least. The wedding day came, and as expected, Dave was dressed in an exquisite suit. He'd chosen red because it was my favorite color. I found it a bit odd that he had me in mind on such an important day, but it also made me feel good. From my place, I watched and smiled. I saw Kira, but only from a back view, and decided to go over to her and say hi. I felt we needed to get properly introduced before the wedding began at least. I breezed through a small crowd on my wheelchair and tapped her from behind. Hi, it's such a pleasure to...
Hey, excuse me. Do I know you?
I tried to introduce myself to her, but she hissed, muttered a few curses under her breath, and walked away. I figured she had been pissed off by one of the people whom she was meeting with before I called her, and so decided to go after her. It was a decision that proved to have sour consequences. I caught up with her again, and this time, I hoped and believed for a positive outcome. I greeted her with a smile, but she snapped at me before I could introduce myself to her.
Hey, who are you? Look, I don't even care. I don't have any business with an ugly-looking creature like you. Get the fuck out of my wedding.
What? Kira?
How do you even know my name? Oh, I almost forgot my name is written on the card. What are you doing here?
Kira, I'm...
Pathetic. That's what you are. I don't care who you are. I don't like you. You're scarred in the face, and OMG, you can't even walk. Today is my day of glitz and glam. I'm not letting a scarred face cripple take it away from me. Leave immediately.
I was hurt by her comments because until then, no one had ever made me feel less about myself because of my disability. I tried to make a last attempt at introducing myself, but she pushed my wheelchair out of the wedding premises.
Wait, what's that? Is that my ring? Give that to me. Lord, I can't believe Dave entrusted such great responsibility into your hands. A ring bearer riding on a wheelchair on my wedding and with a scarred face? That would ruin every beautiful moment. Let's not even talk about my wedding photos. A lifetime memory of this.
Something about the way she said the last part really broke my heart. I wanted to get back at her, but I managed to compose myself. Silly bride or not, it was my best friend's wedding as much as it was hers, and I didn't want to spoil his great day. I gave the ring to her, wished her a blessed union, and left with a heavy heart. Dave called me in the evening. He was infuriated and demanded a reason for skipping his wedding. As much as I hated Kira for what she did, I decided to keep the events of the day to myself. I lied to him that an emergency meeting came up at work and apologized to him.
That's not an excuse, Jesse. I've always pictured you in my wedding photo album, but now, I'm never going to have that.
I could tell he was deeply hurt, but at least he accepted my apology. A few months after their wedding, I received a call from an anonymous caller. I picked up the phone and was surprised by what I heard.
Hello, it's Kira, Dave's wife. I'm sorry for what happened the first time we met, but I need your help.
I couldn't help the evil grin on my face as she told me how Dave had filed for a divorce against her and how her career was at stake. I resisted the urge to insult her, and instead only asked her not to dial my line ever again. You see, after the wedding, Dave and his wife moved to France for their honeymoon. Kira was French, and besides, Paris was ultimately the city of love, right? After their honeymoon, they decided to make a permanent home there. His wife was a runway model and had a blossoming career until a leaked video surfaced online. It was the hateful clip of what happened between us on her wedding day. I don't know who leaked it, but I was glad about it. I hadn't told Dave anything, and he'd always believed that I had missed his wedding because I was working that day, as I'd told him. When he saw the clip online, he got mad at his wife, and instantly made the decision to divorce her.
It's you who's pathetic, Kira. How could you be so selfish and petty? Listen up. Let me tell you something. Jessie has that scar and sits on a wheelchair. Because years ago, she saved me from a burning building. I was lucky to get out unhurt, but not her. I think she lost her footing and fell from many floors up. Her selfless love is the reason I'm alive, and here today and on my biggest day, you robbed her of witnessing it. I'm so done with you.
Of course, she begged him and told him she had no idea who I was. She even promised to make it up to me, but Dave wasn't having any of it. Her modeling career also took a nosedive. Every brand she had an endorsement with withdrew their affiliation with her and promptly terminated her contract. As for Dave, he traveled all the way from France to come meet me. He apologized until I got embarrassed about it and pleaded with him to stop. Kira moved back to the USA with hope to win Dave back, and called me a few more times with different numbers. But I hated her for what she did to my friend and didn't want Dave to spend his life with someone like her. I wanted so very badly to get back at her, both for what she said to me, but also for breaking Dave's heart. But knowing that the video of her being cruel to me was having a terrible impact on her life would have to do. I successfully established my own business and was shocked when about 3 years later, a poor-looking woman showed up and begged for a job, even if it meant being a janitor. I almost hired her, but as soon as I identified her as Kira, I called security on her. I didn't care if I was her last lifeline. She could die in abject poverty and rot in hell. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
You stupid girl. You're just like your mother. I knew it was a bad idea letting a woman so low to marry my precious son. Stop crying, stupid. Your voice makes my skin crawl.
Yes, that's my father-in-law, Mr. Roberts. My name is Rosaline, and I've been married to my husband, Christopher, for 8 years. We have 2 kids together, aged 6 and 4. Our first child, Jack, was born 2 years after our wedding, and his sister, Michelle, was born 2 years after him. We're planning to relocate our family to the UK after living with my in-law in their mansion for the whole 8 years. Christopher is a medical doctor, while I'm a nurse. He attended a well-known medical school, while I attended an average one. We met during our interview at the hospital we both worked at, and immediately connected. We only dated for about 6 months before Christopher and I decided that we were ready to get married. On the day he took me to his parents, I knew there would be problems. His kind mother liked me instantly, but I couldn't say the same for his father.
What job do you do, young lady?
I'm a nurse at the same hospital where Christopher works, sir.
Oh? What school did you attend?
The moment I answered that question, he changed.
That's an average school. Are your parents poor?
Honestly, my parents, before their death, weren't wealthy, but they did the best they could for me. They died after I graduated from high school, so I had to do part-time jobs to see myself through college. When I told my father-in-law that, he flared up.
What? An orphan? How dare you think I will accept this marriage, Christopher? She not only attended a school below our standard, she's also an orphan. I love Rose, father. Please, don't talk down on her and give us your blessings.
It took quite a long time before Mr. Roberts eventually allowed us to get married. I knew he hated me, but my mother-in-law's kindness was enough for me. At the wedding, when it was time to give his speech, he took his time to embarrass me as much as he wanted.
Honestly, I'd wanted a better girl for my son. I worked my ass off to gain this wealth. I also made sure to send my son to the best medical school. So it's quite a shame that he's decided to marry a girl that's not only a poor orphan, but also below his league. Anyway, since they claim to love each other, do I have a choice to oppose?
I was utterly embarrassed, but I held it all in with a smile. Before the wedding, my father-in-law had asked us to live with him in his mansion. His reason:
You're both busy. It would be better to have your family here with us. We'll take care of the kids while you're away.
I thought it was a great suggestion, so we agreed. After our honeymoon, we began living with them. My father-in-law was even worse. He would intentionally bring his friends over while I was off duty at the hospital.
This is my daughter-in-law. I'm quite ashamed as she went to a low-class college, but what can a father do? My son wanted a classless woman.
Right in my face, he would join hands with his friends to mock me. I took it in as I respected him. When I had Jack, my father-in-law was the happiest.
He has such a striking resemblance with me and his father. My boy.
I was glad. He didn't like me, but he loved my son. It was enough for me. Whenever I wasn't home, he would take care of Jack. He made sure my son never lacked anything. Although he still made fun of my educational level every opportunity he got, I was consoled by the fact that he loved my son. However, I was mistaken. I realized that when I had my second child, Michelle.
A girl? Ugh, she looks so much like her poor mother. It would have been better if she looked like me or Christopher.
How could he make such a comment about a newly born? I was angry, but I let it slide. As the children grew up, my father-in-law got worse. He showed it to the kids who his favorite grandkid was. Often, I would return from work to meet my daughter isolated in the living room, while my son was with his grandfather. I was sad, but I knew there was nothing I could do. Christopher noticed his father's behavior one day, when the man left home for a their-day trip and returned home on the third day with only a gift for Jack.
Grandfather, didn't you get one for Michelle? She loves chocolate too.
My father-in-law dismissed his question with a smile. My son crawled to his sister after my father-in-law left and offered her some of his.
Are you sad about what grandfather did?
No, I know grandfather doesn't like me.
I was broken. The child knew he didn't like her. That was a shame. That day, Christopher and I took the kids out for ice cream. We also made them play games and do everything they wanted together. When we returned home and put the children to sleep, Christoph and I decided to have a question about it. He hates her because she looks like me. He could just punish me. Why does he have to involve my child? It's so unfair. I was getting close to tears. It was so sad that he was being that way to my daughter.
I think you should quit your job, honey. I earn enough to take care of us all, so you can quit. You can be able to watch over the kids yourself and stop my dad's favoritism.
Do I have to quit? Can't you just talk to him about it? I love being a nurse. I can't quit my job. We thought for a while, and Christopher had another suggestion.
I'll speak to Mother then. She'll help with Michelle whenever Father takes Jack.
I didn't like that it had to resort to that. I didn't want to separate my kids. I wanted them to grow up having each other's back and loving themselves. Do we have to make the kids be raised that way? Your father's going to influence our son soon? Is that when we're going to actually make a move towards stopping him?
I have plans, Rose. I plan to move our family to the UK. That's why I'm working so hard. Please understand.
I agreed, and we spoke to my mother-in-law. She advised us to work harder and leave quickly before my father-in-law succeeded in making my son like him. Christopher and I worked 2 times harder. While we worked, the few times we were home, we always reminded our kids about the need to love each other and never let anyone come between them. Jack was smart. I knew he loved his sister, but he was still a kid and could be swayed, so we continuously worked on preventing that from happening. My mother-in-law also helped. Whenever we weren't available, she brought the kids together to remind them of the need to always love and protect each other. Once, during Thanksgiving, while I was preparing the food, my father-in-law walked into the kitchen to meet Jack and I there. Jack loved to watch me cook.
What? How dare you bring my grandson in here?
He's my son, father, and my son loves to watch me cook. I don't see how that's a problem.
It is a problem, Rosaline. My grandson does not belong to the kitchen. Your daughter should be here, not my precious grandson.
Why? He wants to be here.
Well, I don't care. I'm taking him with me. You can call that child of yours who looks as greedy and poor as you to be in the kitchen.
I watched as he picked up Jack and took him away. My mother-in-law soon walked in.
Pay no attention to his words, darling. I'll be here with you.
Together, we prepared the meal. 2 months later, my son celebrated his 6th birthday. My father-in-law got him the best gifts. However, for my daughter's 4th birthday, she didn't get even as much as a wish from him. My husband, her brother, my mother-in-law, and I made it memorable for her. We got her as many colorful gifts as we could get, and showered her with wishes and birthday songs. Christopher and I already got a house in the UK, and were processing our travel documents. Only my mother-in-law was aware about it. 2 months later, it was my grandfather's birthday. I was slicing the cakes in the kitchen when I heard him yelling. Alerted, I quickly dropped the knife and dashed upstairs to where his voice sounded from, which was his room.
You stupid girl. You're just like your mother. I knew it was a bad idea letting a woman so low to marry my precious son. Stop crying, stupid. Your voice makes my skin crawl.
I felt furious. How could he say they to a 4-year-old? Worst of it, my daughter was in tears, staring at the floor. I felt my heart sink. My husband and mother-in-law came in too. I was about to speak, but my son beat me to it.
Why are you being unfair to Michelle, grandfather? She only asked if you wanted to play with her, and you hit her and said all that. Do you hate her, grandfather?
My heart sank even deeper. My young son had noticed his bitterness toward my daughter, whose only offense was to look like her mother.
Yes, I hate her. I only love you, Jack. Your sister's good for nothing. She's just like your mother. They're both useless.
That's enough, Mr. Roberts. How dare you say that to my children's faces? Are you so shameless?
You know, Father, I've tolerated how hostile and unfair you've been toward my daughter. How dare you think you can try to separate my kids? Kids, Jack is your only child. You should kick this poor woman and her child out. They don't deserve you. The girl is going to grow up like her mother, stupid and foolish.
That's enough from you, Roberts. Are you insane? You've been this way from the time we got married. You even made me abort our second child because you thought she would grow up to become like me. Now that's enough. I won't let you tear my son's family apart.
He was furious, hearing his wife speak so boldly. As he raised his hand to slap her, Christopher stopped him.
Not anymore, you evil man. I won't let you hit her anymore. You hear me?
I grabbed my kids.
Grandfather is a bad man. He doesn't like Michelle and wants me to hate her too.
You should be ashamed, Mr. Roberts. That day, we took our things and headed to a hotel. My mother-in-law followed. She'd had enough and was going to divorce him. Christopher and I worked on getting transferred, while my mother-in-law worked on their divorce. 2 months after staying at the hotel, we all left for the UK, excluding my father-in-law. My mother-in-law had gotten half his properties from their divorce. She sold it all to start a fresh life in the UK. She got a house of her own and started a clothing line there, while Christopher and I worked harder. We had a trusted maid who looked after our kids. It'd been 10 years now. We heard my father-in-law had stroke, and even at the hospital, he wasn't so kind to the nurses, and so the nurses treated him horribly. He ended up dying alone. We've been at peace, and our kids are growing with love. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
He said you'd be mad at us for not following their orders.
And they don't feed us. We have to make food for them first and clean up after them.
And if we get too loud, they make us sit in the kitchen pantry with the light off.
I found out that they were also looking through my bedroom, that they made the girls their little servants, making them get and do everything for them. And then the worst stuff, they made them dress up in silly outfits and made them dance to their own amusement, mocking them and filming them. I was raised in a single-parent home, where my loving father took care of us as best he could after our mother died at a young age. Being the oldest of 3, I helped out as much as I could. I made lunches, helped with dinner, and babysat long hours, while our father was at work day in and day out. My father made all of our lives as best as he could, but it wasn't always easy. Sometimes we'd have to eat the same food for days on end because it was so cheap to buy. We only bought used clothes, and we never went out. As the years went on, our father became more successful and was able to afford better stuff. Our youngest brother, Max, remembers the good times but doesn't remember the hardships we went through because he was too little to remember.
Are we going to have pizza tonight?
We already had pizza last night. Let's do something a little bit more healthy.
But I want pizza. Son, listen to your sister. We already had pizza. How about we have a healthy dinner and we can have ice cream for dessert? Well, okay, I guess, but it better be chocolate.
Our father just wanted us all to be happy, and he did a great job at that. He sadly passed away before he could retire, but not before giving me and my sister a good head on our shoulders. We took money and education seriously. Max wasn't a terrible student, but he only made just passing grades, and he always spent what money he got right away, even when he became an adult.
Let's go to the movies, guys.
I am sorry, Max, but me and Pete need to save for the kids. We can watch something online at our place and order some pizza if you want.
That sounds lame. I'll just head to the club. That sounds more fun anyway. See ya.
I thought we would have instilled some family and money values into Max, but I think he always accepted that he could get whatever he wanted, never realizing the actual costs. We drifted apart, and years went by, and we barely communicated with one another. After 2 girls, Carrie and Lizzie, 10 and 11, and owning my own house, I got an unexpected call from him.
Hey sis, I know this is out of the blue, but do you think me and my wife can stay at your place for a quick visit?
You got married? I was in shock. Max never told me about his personal life, really, but this was still a complete surprise.
Yeah, it's me, Stacy, and her sister Maddie. I know it's sort of last minute, but I told them you'd be cool with us coming over. Say next week?
Yeah, anything for family, I'll let Pete know. Happy to see you soon. The next few days were a blur of cleaning and getting things ready for our unexpected guests. When they came, everything seemed okay at first. We all got along just fine overall. So how long are you all going to be in the area? We love seeing you all.
That's the thing. We might be here longer than we thought. You see, we're moving to this area, and we're hoping to look for a new place while we stayed here. 2, maybe 3 weeks tops. You'll hardly notice we're here. Promise.
It took a little convincing, but Pete was willing to accommodate them. We already had one spare room, and moving both girls into a single room opened another room for Maddie. But by the second day, things quickly changed. Max always wanted to go out to eat, but wanted to split the bill evenly, even when he, Stacy, and Maddie ordered the most expensive items and drinks.
Come on, Jane. You're my older sister, and I know Pete makes lots of money. Help us out here. It's embarrassing.
If money was such a big issue for you, why did you three keep ordering the most expensive stuff?
You could have ordered expensive stuff too. You know, no one made you order the cheap food.
Besides, didn't you guys invite us 3 to this specific restaurant? Why bring us here if you didn't want us to try new things?
Yes, but what Jane is trying to say is that you could have tried something new and moderately priced. This is just like old Jane. Fine, whatever. We'll pay for ourselves. But we are not leaving a tip. The service was terrible anyway.
That was only the tip of the iceberg. Later that night, Max, Stacy, and Maddie drank our liquor after we went to bed. We had a few expensive bottles that we were saving for special occasions. They didn't clean up after themselves. There was throw up on the carpet near the couch. They woke up the girls and Pete and me in the middle of the night. Pete had to tell them to be quiet. The next morning was rough.
Oh, come on. Why buy expensive liquor when you're not going to enjoy it? We can get you some that taste just as good for a fraction of the cost. Besides, it tasted about the same as other whiskey with Coke.
That wasn't cheap whiskey. You're not even supposed to mix it with Coke. You woke up the girls, you left a mess, including puke by the couch. You got mad at Pete for telling you guys to quiet down, and you have yet to apologize for any of it.
Is your sister always like this in the morning? Because I am starting to feel unwelcome here. I thought we were family.
Jane, look. I am so sorry. We will try not to make that much noise at night anymore, okay? But I think it's unfair. You want your guests to clean up this house. Get one of your kids to clean it up. It'll be a good learning experience for them.
I will not have my girls cleaning up drunken puke.
Fine. Maddie did it. When she wakes up, I'll make her clean it. Happy?
After that, things weren't as bad for a few days. Max, Stacy, and Maddie mostly stayed to themselves. They didn't clean up after themselves, but thankfully they didn't make as big a mess as their night of partying. During the day, they would be out and about, looking at places to rent. Did you find a place yet?
Not yet. We keep looking. But all the good places get taken too quickly, you know?
Yeah, it's not a good market for buyers at the moment. That reminds me, Pete has to be out of town for business. I'll be here, of course. But I do need to work a few swing shifts. Would either of you be willing to watch the girls for a few hours after school this week? They're old enough. You really don't have to do much. Just feed them and make sure they don't hurt themselves.
I guess we can. They seem quiet enough.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate it. Even though I knew Max wasn't that dependable, my girls were old enough to mostly watch themselves. I just wanted someone to make sure they were home and safe. Boy, was I wrong. The first day or two seemed normal enough. I would come home late, and the girls would already be getting ready for bed. They didn't really want to talk, but they were at that age where kids wanted to distance themselves from their parents, so that didn't seem too odd to me. But by the end of the 5 days, they were not the same 2 happy, hyper children I remember. They seemed tired and sad. Lizzie, is everything okay? Is Uncle Max and Aunt Stacy being good to you and your sister?
Yeah, kinda.
Mom, they're not nice.
Shh, Carrie. We'll get in trouble.
Who will get in trouble? And by who?
Uncle Max said we'd get in big trouble.
In big trouble for what?
He said you'd be mad at us for not following their orders.
And they don't feed us. We have to make food for them first and clean up after them.
And if we get too loud, they make us sit in the kitchen pantry with the light off.
I found out that they were also looking through my bedroom, that they made the girls their little servants, making them get and do everything for them. And then the worst stuff, they made them dress up in silly outfits and made them dance to their own amusement, mocking them and filming them. Tears filled their eyes as they told me all this, and my heart broke for them.
And when we tried to refuse and the pantry didn't work, they spanked us.
It was at that point I was livid. After giving my girls hugs and telling them everything was going to be okay, I wanted nothing more than to yell at my brother and kick him out. But something Carrie said stuck with me. They were filmed. The next day I went out and bought lots of liquor. I had the kids go stay with some friends for the night, and I told Max that for watching the kids, we would have a little party with lots of drinks.
See, now this is the cool sister I always wanted.
They drank, and I only had water. As the night went on, they got really drunk and were whooping and hollering and dancing. Finally, they started to pass out, and on the cusp of falling asleep, I made my move. I grabbed each of their phones, and one by one, "Hey, you wanted to show me something on your phone. What's the passcode?" And without fail, each of them unlocked their phone for me. Now it was my turn to invade their privacy. I found the videos they took of my girls being made to dance, and where they got spanked, I sent those to my own device. It looked like Max was also stealing money from Stacy's parents. With Maddie's help, they had lots of text going back and forth on their little scheme. And Max had his boss's contact information, which he was on vacation from. The next morning, I made a few calls before they woke up. The police arrived to arrest them for the videos they took showing what they did to the girls. Surprised at this development and deeply hungover, they started fighting the cops. As they realized why they were being detained, they started pointing fingers at who was the ringleader. At first, Stacy took Max's side, but that quickly changed as I told her about his scam against her parents with Maddie's help, and that I sent her their texts as proof. In the end, they were both locked up for a year and some months. Next, once I got the police report, I sent that information to Max's job, whereby he was fired immediately. Years later, when they were out and the dust had settled, I heard from my sister that Max tried to get her to help him. He was poor and unable to get a job in his field again. He had become depressed and homeless and only recently got hired at a factory, barely making ends meet. I know for sure how frustrated he is doing that job. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.
I ran to him and pulled his shirt, begging him to talk to my mother, but he couldn't say a word. He stood at a spot, staring into nothing with tears streaming down his eyes. We begged my mother until she reached the gate.
Get away from me, you stupid things from a useless man.
She yelled and kicked us off carelessly. With the force she kicked us with, my sister got a terrible injury on her forehead that had blood gushing out of it. I ran back into the house as fast as my short legs could carry me, wailing. Hi there. My name's Alex. I am 30-year-old living in a serene part of Australia. My mother left my sister and I when I was only 7 years of age. My father was a gentleman. They got married 3 years before I was born. They'd both planned to start having kids immediately after marriage, but failed. The doctor said my mother was having a problem with her womb and had to be on medication. My father was fine with it. For 2 years, my mother was on medications. My father was patient. Even though he badly wanted kids, he endured with her until the doctor confirmed her to be fine. 1 year later, she got pregnant with me. You can tell that my father was the happiest man on earth to hear the news from her. 2 years after my birth, she took in for my sister, and 3 years later, she gave birth to my brother. A year after his birth, my mother began nagging terribly.
Why are you just returning from work? Don't you know your children and I need you?
My father always apologized. On days when he was home, he would spend all of his time with us. Still, my mother wasn't appreciative. Soon, he caught her cheating with a colleague of hers at the new place she began working at. Prior to that, she'd begun exhibiting even worse behaviors.
I work all day. Have you no ounce of pity for me, you stupid man?
On the day he caught her, they had a fight the previous night. I knew because their loud noises woke me up and I was forced to leave my room. What have I not done for you, Jane? I've done everything I can to be a good husband and keep this family whole.
Oh, keep your sermons to yourself. What have you done that no other man hasn't? If you make me pissed, I'm gonna leave you.
I was scared to hear that threat. I rushed back to my room and buried my face in my small pillow, crying. The thought of my mother leaving us scared me. That fateful day, my father returned home looking utterly disorganized. His eyes also looked like mine whenever I cried so much, and that filled my small mind with worry. Are you okay, Daddy? He looked up at me with a smile and assured me that he was. In that heartbroken state he prepared dinner, fed us, gave us our night bath before putting us to sleep. 2 hours later, I woke up from a nightmare. I dashed out of my room and went to my parents', but no one was there. I went to the living room, only to see my dad sitting on the floor, still in his office clothes, tears rolling down his eyes. I couldn't go to him. I turned and headed back to my room. I would later come to know that after he caught them in her office, my mother had told him to his face that the man was the new person she loved, and he and his children could go kill themselves for all she cared. For 2 weeks, my mother didn't return home. Whenever we asked my dad, he would say she was on an important trip and would be back soon. 3 weeks later, she returned home with my father's parents.
I admit my mistakes. Please forgive me. I was out of my mind. I promise it will never repeat itself.
My grandparents also joined in pleading for my father's forgiveness. Eventually, he did. She returned home and quit her job. For the first 2 months, she was a great wife. She took care of us properly, spent more than enough time with us, and also became a loving wife to my father. We had no idea what she was planning. One night, while we were all watching a movie in the living room, my mother's phone rang. The call took barely 10 seconds. After the first word and an okay, she excused herself and left the living room. When she reappeared, she was with a bag and 2 boxes. My father was alarmed. What are you doing, babe? Where are you going?
I'm leaving you, fool. I'm going to start my life with a man who cares for me.
My father was confused. He thought she'd changed. She suddenly grabbed my brother.
Just so you know, Jacob isn't your son. My son, his father, and I are going to start a new life of our own.
That night, we cried and pleaded with her, but she was bent on leaving. We were young, so the thought of separating with our mother and brother was too much for us. My father was dumbfounded. I ran to him and pulled his shirt, begging him to talk to my mother, but he couldn't say a word. He stood at a spot, staring into nothing with tears streaming down his eyes. We begged my mother until she reached the gate.
Get away from me, you stupid things from a useless man.
She yelled and kicked us off carelessly. With the force she kicked us with, my sister got a terrible injury on her forehead that had blood gushing out of it. I ran back into the house as fast as my short legs could carry me, wailing. Mother kicked Abby. She's crying blood from her head. My father snapped out of his shocked state and dashed out of the house. I grabbed his car keys and ran after him. We met my sister unconscious. It took a week before she finally woke up in the hospital. She lost a lot of blood. The fall nearly affected her brain. The wound left a huge scar on her forehead that made her insecure for years. We finally returned home after spending almost 4 weeks at the hospital. In tears, my father calmly explained the situation to us. Even in that moment, he pleaded with us to not hate our mother, but it was unacceptable for my sister and I. We despised her from that young age. 10 years later, while we were spending time with our father at a park, his phone suddenly rang. He was happy to see that the caller was my mother. He quickly called for our attention and answered the call, putting it on loudspeaker.
Hey, loser. I'm calling to tell you that I'm leaving the life I've always dreamed of. My extremely wealthy husband takes good care of my son and I. I hope you and your children continue wallowing in poverty.
I lost it there and was about to speak, but she hung up. My father wasn't poor, he wasn't rich, but we were satisfied with his level. How could she be so evil to him and us, her innocent children? My hatred for her increased even more. That call brought back all the emotions he'd been locking in, and my father fell into depression. He tried his best for 2 years to defeat it, but his best didn't seem enough. 3 years later, my father committed suicide. He left us an apology note and the password to the safe he'd been saving money for the past 20 years. Although we were devastated by the loss of our father, The wealth he left behind managed to console us. With that money, I made good investments and trained my sister and I throughout our education years. My mother returned, 8 years after my father died, looking old and haggard. According to her story, her husband and Jacob had died in a car accident. His real wife and his family came and sent her out with nothing. She begged for our forgiveness, and I accepted. My sister was furious, but I let her know that I have a plan. For 1 year, I ensured we both lived with my mother in the only mansion I had in America. We showed her all the love she could ask for and treated her better than she could ever imagine. After that year, I sold the house without her knowledge. I rounded up everything I had to do in America. One night, while all three of us were watching a movie, I got a call from my manager that my flight was ready. I signaled to my sister, and we both excused ourselves. We grabbed a bag and 2 boxes each, the remaining properties we had there, and walked back to the living room. My mother was surprised and asked where we were going. This was the same way you left us, years ago. The owner of this house and everything in it is coming tomorrow, so you better evacuate. The cars outside have all been sold. For your bank account, my manager has taken every penny I left there. We're leaving this country, and we pray to never see you again. Just like we did that night, my mother begged, nearly crying her eyes out. When we got to the gate, I pushed her, but she was lucky enough to land safely. We walked out, and my second manager was waiting by the gate with a car. We got in, and he drove off. I turned to catch a smirk on my sister's face. With a smile, I asked her if she's happy.
More than happy. I did something too. I figured your plan wouldn't be enough payback, so I planned mine. Yesterday, I injected her with HIV patient blood, telling her it will make her look younger, and she believed it. Then I later posted her pictures on social media with caption, "Beware of this sexy HIV patient."
Next day, I received a call from my neighbors, informing me that the following day, the property owners arrived, and my mother adamantly refused to leave. Unfortunately, the situation escalated, resulting in her being beaten. The police were subsequently called, leading to her arrest, and she's now facing a sentence for trespassing. Hope we did the right thing? Hello? I'm Aaron, and my story began when I was only 4. On a night when my mom made me pack a bag and put me in the car. They strapped me into a car seat with my teddy bear on my lap and my backpack by my feet. Mommy, what are we doing?
Shut up.
Daddy, what's wrong? Stop talking, Aaron. I felt so confused and scared, and I didn't understand what was going on. But I did know that my parents didn't like me much. However, my twin sister was perfect, pretty, and smart, in their eyes. I knew they liked her more. I couldn't help but resent her and them for it. We drove for hours, and I grew more and more scared. Eventually, I started to cry.
Shut up.
But I couldn't stop. I cried right up until we stopped, and I was picked up out of the car seat and left standing on the sidewalk outside of a vaguely familiar house. Mommy, what are we doing here? We? Nothing. But you? You're moving in. You'll never amount to anything, Aaron. We can't waste our time with you when your sister is the one who will make us money. And they climbed back into the car, laughing at me while I stood on the sidewalk crying. They drove away, and I didn't know what to do. I was tired, so I dragged my bag up to the house and curled into the porch swing and held my teddy tight. When I woke up, my aunt was crouched down beside me, and she had a hand on my shoulder.
Aaron, darling, are you okay?
No. Mommy and Daddy left me here.
I'm sorry, Aaron. They called me this morning and told me that they didn't want 2 children, only 1. And they said that your sister was a good business investment. But don't worry, I'll look after you. Come inside. Let's get you a nice hot bath and something to eat.
My aunt carried me inside, and that was the start of my new life. My aunt wasn't a wealthy woman, but she made enough for us. I went to school and studied hard, and I never forgot the feeling of being left behind. I never reached out to my parents, but I always figured that they would attempt to reconnect one day. But I wasn't going to hold my breath. Instead, I let my aunt become my entire family. She was my mom and my best friend. During the holidays, we would spend it with her friends and their children. I never wallowed in the pain of what my parents did. I went to counseling and wrote music to express myself. I wrote books and poems. I made myself a creative conduit for all the emotions I've ever had. I was a creator. One day, when I was 15, I was playing in a local bar for tips and free meals. The boss knew my aunt, and on the nights that she had late shifts, they invited me to play and gave me an empty booth at the back in which to eat and study. I had just finished my set to a rousing applause when someone I found vaguely familiar approached me. She was my age and had blonde hair and blue eyes, just like me.
Hi?
Hello?
I know who you are. Do you know who I am?
I have my suspicions.
I'm your twin sister.
I had assumed this would happen one day, but I expected my parents to be there too. Is it weird that I don't even remember your name?
Yes, it is. Didn't Auntie tell you about me?
She told me she hasn't seen you since they abandoned me.
Abandon is so dramatic.
And accurate. They left me in the street. They didn't even call my aunt until the next morning. They laughed while I stood on the sidewalk and cried.
So you remember a random night when you were 4 and not my name?
I remember the things that matter.
Then you better start remembering me. I've won so many medals and trophies in gymnastics that I'm basically famous. They're talking about sending me to the Olympics.
I couldn't understand what she wanted. Was she really here just to brag? What do you want?
I was just coming to see whether they made the right choice.
Well, consider me flattered that you found me enough of a threat that you had to come all the way down to see me in person. You can leave now.
I'm not here to flatter you. I just couldn't find you on the internet. Must be because you're such a nobody.
Not quite. I just changed my last name. She obviously hadn't considered this at all, and she started to scowl at me.
You know, there aren't any baby photos in the house because of you.
Sorry?
You should be. They basically started anew after they got rid of you, which means all my friends think I'm adopted because I can't show them baby photos because you were in all of them.
What do you want from me? I've done nothing wrong, and you're here to rub my nose in the fact that they kept you? If I had my way, I'd never hear from any of you again. Now please leave. If you don't, I'll have the bouncer show you out.
No, you wouldn't.
I stood up and waved my hand at the bouncer, Tommy. He was a big guy who I became friends with after he was assigned to watch over me the first few nights I was at the bar. He nodded and started walking towards me. Immediately, my sister's eyes went wide and she backed away.
Oh my God, fine. But just so you know, I'm glad my parents kicked you to the curb.
Feelings mutual. I'm blessed that I didn't have to grow up around someone so conceited and horrible. It felt like a fever dream the moment she left the bar. Tommy asked if I was okay, and I told him I was fine, but I was confused and a little hurt too. Why would she go so far out of her way to make me feel bad? When I got home that night, my aunt was still at work, and so I went to the couch and laid down. I tried watching some random videos on the internet, but although I wanted to drown out my thoughts, nothing seemed to work. Sometime in the early morning, my aunt woke me up.
Aaron, you shouldn't sleep on the sofa. It's not good for you, and you're too big for me to carry you upstairs.
Sorry.
Hey, what's wrong?
My twin came to the bar last night. I quickly explained what had happened, and my aunt grew angrier as I told her what happened.
My sister is the worst. She was always like that when we were younger. I'm better than you, so you're worthless. Mom loves me more because I got a better score on our science test. She harped on about it for ages. It really messed with me when I was younger.
That's why she left me with you? Because she thinks we're both worthless?
No matter what your mother believed, you are never worthless. It doesn't matter what you do, you're still worth something, and everyone is worthy of love.
My aunt was the best at making me feel better. So even with the stark reminder that one family had abandoned me, I still had a different one that never would. Oddly enough, it was the trauma from my past that I started to make a name for myself. I think it was partially because of how she bullied me about not being on the internet much, but I really wanted to prove her, and by extension my family, wrong. And so I uploaded some of my music to the internet. I put it on a niche site where people shared their music and stories with each other, but one of my songs was uploaded to a popular music sharing website, and it became a viral hit overnight. I woke up on a random Thursday to a million messages on my phone, and my aunt excitedly calling me downstairs. By this time, I was 20 and gangly. I had a mess of blonde hair and preferred to wear my high school basketball uniform on days when I didn't have to go to college. It was like this, fresh out of bed and confused as hell, that I met the CEO of the biggest record company in the country. Aaron, is it? Thank you for coming down to meet me. I'm the CEO of Rich Records, and this morning, my daughter came to me and begged me to listen to the new, biggest song in the world. At first, I was worried that our competition had started making waves, but I realized soon enough that you were unrepresented. So, I'm here to offer you representation. Do you have more songs? I stood there for a while with my mouth hanging open like an idiot.
Aaron has an entire library of music he's written. He's really very creative, always writing something. Books, poetry, music.
Seems you've got a lot of talent going on. We could use someone of your ability. It was too much too fast. I was overwhelmed. I had expected this to be a lazy day where I played video games with my friends and studied. I had not planned on being internationally famous on a fluke, but I had to take the bull by the horns. It would be an honor to work with your company, sir. That same day, the CEO took me and my aunt shopping to buy new clothes for a big meeting with his employees. Then, he flew us to the capital city in his private jet, where I met with his creative advisors, and we discussed the breadth of what I had to offer. By the end of the day, I had a record deal and had several tour dates booked. The single was released a week later, and it was the fastest-selling single in the whole history of the company. In no time at all, I was one of the richest musicians in the world, and my name was everywhere. Things were moving so quickly, and before I knew it, I was juggling school and performing at concert venues to massive crowds of adoring fans. I couldn't believe my good fortune. To show my appreciation to my aunt for all that she had done for me, I paid off her mortgage and gave her enough money so that she could retire and travel with me when I went on tour. I also put her in charge of managing my finances, as I knew that she was far more responsible with money than I was. While on tour, I happened to walk by a TV that was broadcasting sports news, and I heard my sister's name, which drew my attention. Apparently, there was a scandal involving her and a few of her teammates. All of them had been taking performance-enhancing drugs, and they had been caught. It didn't sound like they would face any legal repercussions. But she had been denied the ability to go to the Olympics, and her career as a gymnast was over. I couldn't help but chuckle when I heard that. She had been so proud of going to the Olympics, and now she had been caught cheating and would be lucky if she could get a job as a cleaning lady. Several months later, after my tour was finished, my aunt and I went home to relax for a bit before my next tour. As we approached my aunt's house, there sitting on the front porch were my parents and my twin sister. All three of them looked dirty and dressed in torn clothing. At first, I wasn't sure it was them and thought that 3 homeless people had wandered onto my aunt's porch. But as we got closer, I realized who they were.
There you are. We've been waiting for days for you to come home.
For what? Why are you here?
Well, there was a bit of a misunderstanding and we're going through a bit of a rough patch. Just let us inside and we'll tell you how you can help. Excuse me, but we aren't inviting you monsters into our home. After what you did to Aaron all those years ago. You have some nerve. You're just lucky that we don't call the police and have you charged with trespassing.
How can you be so heartless? After I was caught with the steroids that Mom and Dad gave me, we lost everything. We couldn't pay our bills and ended up losing our house.
In other words, you were living outside of your means and the debt caught up to you then? Well, that really isn't our problem. You kicked us both out of the family years ago, and you don't have any right to come demanding for us to help you now that you're flat broke. I pulled out my cell phone and called the police, and they arrived a few minutes later. Thankfully, my parents and sister were distracted by talking to my aunt, and so they didn't notice until the police pulled up, and by then, it was too late. And they were loaded up into the squad cars and taken away. We later heard that when they were taken to the police station and were processed, that they found steroids on all 3 of them, and they were then arrested. It was quite the surprise, especially when they were put on trial, and between the Olympics scandal and being arrested with steroids on them. The judges in their cases weren't very lenient on them, and gave them each 10 years in prison. It felt rather fitting that we got to see karma in action, actually. My parents had abandoned me because they were convinced that my sister was the one that would make something out of herself. And yet I had been the one to strike it rich and famous. Although, I guess she did become famous as well, but for all the wrong reasons. There are times, though, that I wondered that if they hadn't abandoned me, if things would still have turned out the way that they did, and I honestly don't think that they would have. After all, My aunt had been the one to really make me believe in myself, and without her influence, I don't think I would be half the artist that I am today. So even though my parents hurt me more than anyone else on this planet ever could, they helped to ensure my future success by giving me to the one person that would love me more than anyone else in the world. Of course, when they do get out of prison, they'll be dirt poor and will probably come begging for money, and I'll just have to hire plenty of bodyguards to keep them away. Even though I have them to thank for putting me where I needed to be in order to become successful, I still have no desire or need for toxic people like them in my life. Thanks for watching. I didn't even knock. I just kicked in the door. Inside was a large man that was sitting in my brother's wheelchair, and my brother was tied up on the bed. "Paolo, help me, he's kidnapped me!" In that moment, I was sent back to when we were kids and fighting bullies, and I lost it. I ran at the man, and even though he was bigger than me, I punched him over and over again, and dodged when he tried to punch me back. It was like a scene from an action movie. I just kept going until the man finally fell over unconscious. I then untied my brother and helped him into his chair, and then called the police. Hi there, my name is Paolo, and I'm 27 years old. So, I have a bit of a tragic story that I want to share with you, but I can assure you that it does have a happy ending. Maybe after hearing it, it will give you a bit of hope for your own situation, and might also help you avoid making the same mistakes that I made as well. First off, let me start off that I'm a twin. My twin brother Milo, however, has had life a lot harder than I have, though. While I was born a healthy, bouncing baby boy, he was born with a degenerative condition that make his muscles grow much slower than everyone else. Unfortunately, this made growing up very difficult for my brother. When we were younger, and in school, there were so many bullies that would pick on him, and it made me incredibly angry. The number of times that I got into physical fights in order to protect my brother. "Oh, look, it's Milo, the poor cripple boy. Since you are so much smaller than me, I guess that means that you won't need to eat as much as I do. In which case, you should hand over your lunch money. You better hand it over or I'll break your wheelchair, and then you'll be stuck here." "Please don't. I need it to get around." "Well, then you better pay up, nerd." "What did you say to my brother?" "Oh, look, the cripple has a bodyguard." "Well, looks like I'll break your wheelchair and your brother's face, too." That time, it was a fair fight, and I was able to defend us and beat up the bully. But there were other times that things didn't end well. Sadly, Milo and I got beat up more than a few times, but I never minded because I did more good than not and stopped him from constantly being picked on. Thankfully, our parents understood that the times we would get into fights were never our fault and gave us a lot of leniency when it came to getting in trouble at school and whatnot. At any rate, both of us were quite used to being bullied, and I really thought that it would end when we became adults. But as you will come to see, that wasn't going to end up being the case. At any rate, that should give you some context of why what happened later made me act out so much. So, after high school, Milo and I ended up going to different colleges. He went to become a biologist, and I went to school to study engineering. Both of us did quite well in school and were able to graduate and then found good-paying jobs. Shortly after starting my career, I met Susan. She lived in the same apartment building as myself, and she was gorgeous. Just looking at her made my heart burst out of my chest. When she agreed to go on a date with me, I thought I was going to pass out from excitement, and then a couple years later when I asked her to marry me, I was over the moon with happiness. However, there were many red flags that, looking back now, I definitely ignored. The first was when I introduced her to my family. I brought her to meet my parents and my brother, and while we spoke with them, she smiled and was polite. But then when we got back home, her entire mood changed.
Hey, so you and your brother are twins?
Yep, I was born first, and Milo was born a few minutes later.
Are you sure that he wasn't adopted? I mean, you two barely look anything alike.
Yes, I'm quite sure. Why?
Well, it's just odd that he should be disabled and that you aren't.
Well, it's pretty unfair for sure, but I mean, it's just the hand he was dealt, and he's making the most of it. He's very independent for the most part. I know people who aren't disabled that do much less than he does.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just wondering, like, if we have kids, is there a chance that they will be disabled as well? Like, is it a genetic thing we need to worry about?
No. It was just an unfortunate thing, It isn't genetic, but if our kids have something similar, then we'll still love them no matter what, right?
Yeah, for sure we will. I mean, we would have to, right?
The way she answered my question didn't sit well with me, but it had been a long day, and I just assumed that she was tired and needed some downtime. Looking back, it was easy to see how it was a red flag, but I was in love and I didn't see it for what it was. However, that wasn't the last time that she said something off about my brother. Later that year, my parents invited us over to take a group family portrait for Christmas. We all got dressed up and were ready for the photo when Susan took me off to the side.
Hey, is there any chance that we can get some photos of just us with your parents?
I mean, sure, but what about Milo?
Yes, but I want a photo that I can show my friends and they'll say things if your brother is in the photo.
What do you mean? What kinds of things would they say?
Well, they'll wonder what's wrong with him and they might think that it will be contagious. Please, I just want one or two of just the four of us. I know that it's a silly thing, but you know how some people are.
Once again, deep down, I knew that something wasn't right, but I chose to ignore the warning signs. Instead, I gave in, even though I could tell that Milo found it rather odd that he should be left out of some photos. After that, things went pretty well. We planned the perfect wedding and things were going great. That is until the day of the wedding. Susan had hired an assistant to help Milo get ready. I told her that he didn't need one, but she insisted that it would help everyone have a better time if someone made sure that Milo was taken care of, just in case. My family was very confused as we knew that Milo was very independent and capable of taking care of himself. But Susan insisted, and in the end, all of us just shrugged and accepted it. After all, if Susan wanted to waste her money on someone shadowing Milo all day, then so be it. When the ceremony began, I looked around to see where Milo was, but he was nowhere around. I asked my parents if they had seen him, but they hadn't. Finally, I went to talk to Susan to see if I could get the number of the person that she hired to watch over Milo. Hey Susan, I need to ask you something.
Paolo? What are you doing? It's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding.
I know, but this is very important. Have you seen Milo anywhere?
No. But I'm sure he's around here somewhere. No, go and get ready. The ceremony is about to start.
It can't start until I know where Milo is. It's very important that he be here for my wedding.
No. Listen to me, Paolo. I know that he's your brother, but I can't stand being around that disgusting cripple. There is no way that I'll let him pollute our wedding photos with his grotesque looks and wheelchair.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that this wedding is going to happen without him being here. It's either him or me, Paolo. I'm not going to allow him to ruin my wedding and my wedding photos. So you need to pick which of us is more important.
Are you listening to yourself right now? You're acting crazy. What did you do to my brother?
Oh, he's at a motel down the street. He's fine. Now what are you going to choose?
That's easy. You're nothing but a disgusting bully. I can't believe that I ever loved you. I grabbed her bouquet and threw it on the ground and stomped it flat with the heel of my shoe and stormed out, and then headed down the street to the motel she mentioned. I asked the front desk clerk which room my brother was in and then headed over to it. I didn't even knock, I just kicked in the door. Inside was a large man that was sitting in my brother's wheelchair, and my brother was tied up on the bed. Paolo, help me, he's kidnapped me! In that moment, I was sent back to when we were kids and fighting bullies, and I lost it. I ran at the man, and even though he was bigger than me, I punched him over and over again, and dodged when he tried to punch me back. It was like a scene from an action movie. I just kept going until the man finally fell over unconscious. I then untied my brother and helped him into his chair, and then called the police. They showed up within a few minutes and arrested the man and charged him with kidnapping. I would be lying if I said I wasn't happy when the police were a bit brutal with him and threw him into the squad car. Later that day, the police showed up at Susan's house and threw her in jail as well. It must have been a sight to see a bride in her wedding dress sitting in a jail cell. They told me that they had enough evidence to charge her as an accessory to kidnapping and that she was looking at real prison time. After that, I apologized to my brother for ever letting Susan into our lives. He assured me that everything was okay, but I still felt guilty. Susan did end up going to prison for 3 years, while the man she had hired was sentenced to 10 years. However, I blasted her on social media and made it well known why she had hired someone to kidnap my brother. So even when she gets out, she will have a hard time finding work. or really anything. From what I heard, her family has even disowned her for what she had done. It's kind of sad, really, that she lost pretty much everything because she was being stupid. As for me, well, it took some time before I started dating again, but I met someone new recently. She has met my family and made a really good impression with my parents and Milo too. She even asked Milo if she could introduce him to her sister. We have our fingers crossed that it will be a match made in heaven.